Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Tonight we celebrate the launch of the Atari 5200 Super System, and my guest tonight is an Atari 5200 expert. He's the creator of Prime Video's The Video Game Years and co-founder of RetroWare TV. Chronologically Gaming is so excited and humbled to welcome John Delia to the show. John, it's great to have you back.
Oh, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here for the launch of the Atari 5200, that's for sure.
Yeah, tell us what your experience is with the Atari 5200.
Sure. Well, the Atari 5200 was my very first console. It came out in '82, so I was 2 years old then, but we didn't get it till maybe '84. So we're talking crash days.
Wow.
And this is my introduction, right? So I remember going with my father, being there with him. He was into pole position. He loved racing.
Ooh,
and I had gone to the arcade at the local pizza place, and I had played a lot of Centipede. So we were at Child World, which is I don't know how much they proliferated the country, but in the Northeast, there were a bunch of Child World toy stores. We went to Child World. He picked up probably an incredibly discounted Atari 5200. Which we played in '84, '85, '86 until we got the NES in '87.
Wow, so you went from 5200 to NES? That was the console?
That was my progression.
That's amazing.
Yeah. and I think, I was thinking back on it before the show, and the 5200 has a lot of peccadillos, let's say. Like, the controllers are terrible, except I have a soft spot for them when they work. However, most of the time they don't, and that required like a little bit of know-how. Watching my father dissect a controller, trying to make it work again because the contact stopped working, or the uncentering analog joystick was just a complete mess.
Yeah, right.
And I swear that got me more into games. That got me more into the gaming, the tinkering, all of that. So I think the Atari 5200 had a real place in the way I moved forward in my life in gaming, if you will, if I can steal a friend's show title.
Yeah, no, that's great. I completely understand. So what we usually do is we go back and pretend there's no games from the future. We're just going to go to the launch of Atari 5200. Are you ready to join me in November 1982?
Yeah, man. I'm in West Haven, Connecticut. I'm 2 years old in the living room. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Tune in next week.
And now it's the Atari 5200. The first game we're going to check out is Galaxian. I'm just going to pop in and play. Let's see what Galaxian's all about. And I think I can switch. There we go. There we go. Looking good. All right, so my experience with the Atari 5200 joysticks is they were always old and they always didn't work. Did you get brand new Atari 5200 joysticks whenever you first experienced it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember we came with a pack-in of 2, I believe. By the time I was, we had the system for a year, if I recall correctly. We must have had 4 or 5 controllers, because the carbon contacts that they use with the buttons are so squishy on the side that those connections would wear down quickly, and you couldn't even tell. You'd push that squishy button, and one of those 4 buttons on the side, and you push so hard you penetrate the actual framing of the plastic of the button. It was so terrible. And the joystick, because it didn't recenter, it would stay off. It would constantly input a direction you weren't wanting because it was more than 8 direction, which was almost unnecessary. Well, it was unnecessary for any games that weren't, more like the analog paddle controller type or the trackball type. This controller here that I brought as a prop is a Pro controller, and this Pro controller was sold as a daisy chain because you had all those number inputs and the start and the pause and the reset right on the controller of the original controller. You plug in your original controller into here and then plug this into the console so that you can use this digital stick.
Oh man, how jank.
And it used to be so hard to find those. Like, this thing was rare for years, and I've had that since I was a little kid. I just held on to it because if I wanted to play Pac-Man without going in amazing different directions, this was pretty useful.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Or you had the trackball.
Oh, and that too. This is so cool. I'm so glad you brought.
Yeah. Now the thing about this one, it had the red buttons that were not squishy.
Yes.
some nice clicks, and for games like Centipede or I mean, I don't know about Super Breakout, but you know, it was good for stuff like that. But you know, you already had the controller that was analog, so the trackball was almost unnecessary, in my opinion. But
Right, and the first three games that we're going to play tonight, Galaxian and Space Invaders allow the trackball. We aren't going to be playing with the trackball. We got secrets for how we're playing this one, so I don't get to subject you to the actual Atari 5200 analog joysticks. Hopefully, it'll be a smoother experience.
yeah,
We're going to go into two-player game mode first. So I'm going to say 2 players and then go, and I believe I'm the first up. Yeah, I'm first up. So you can see my terrible movement. And yes, it's Galaxian, but notice we're not playing at the same time. There is no option for us to...
no player. Well, you'll notice in this game, if you start getting a lot of moving characters on the screen, you might see some slowdown. Now, and it's, this was an 8-bit console. It was basically a consoleized Atari 800 computer, for the most part. It had some differences.
Yeah.
But it was pretty decently powerful at the time. I mean, it could do more than it ever got to do. But...
All right, you're up.
Oh, yes, here we go.
And the only real differences that I've experienced was... Oh, is it powered off?
I got movement. I got no movement. I don't know what happened.
Oh, here, we'll try it again. We'll go the other one. Oh, and I died again.
I wonder if it's because I wasn't clicked onto the screen.
Yeah, that's it. Now you're back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my controllers are a little bit wacky.
Oh, man. All right, okay, there we go. So I'm back in now as player 1. Since we played everything so far on the Atari home computer, we have played the version that Galaxian is for the Atari home computer. The really only difference with this one is the color. The color just seems to be brighter and pop a little bit more on the 5200.
Yeah. I know they had a certain number of, I can't know if it was like 16 on-screen colors or not. It might have been more. But yeah, it was definitely an improvement. I did not play the Atari 800 computer very much. I have a couple of I have the XL and then I think the 400 sitting in my basement somewhere. One of those things. I'll just try it on emulator first, I guess.
I'm actually pretty surprised. The computer gave lots of games that I wasn't expecting, and how good and fun they are. Plus, Atari did something called the Atari Program Exchange on that computer, and so you got lots of fledgling developers creating really good stuff ahead of their time, because it's essentially 8-bit, and you're playing games that some of them you could consider like the quality closer to a 16-bit, because there was 16-bit systems out there like the Texas Instruments, terribly named TI-99-4A.
yeah, got one of those in the basement. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, they launched the system, and it was supposed to kind of take on the Intellivision, but ColecoVision came out at the same time, pretty much. Even had I think they jumped the gun on the 5200, and the ColecoVision, it's powerful. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, I got full action back now.
That's what I felt too. When the ColecoVision came out, it seemed to pack a much bigger punch and was a really good console. That was surprising.
Yeah.
What we didn't play with you, John, is I had some reports that people could have gotten the 5200 at some time in October, like late October, with the packing game Super Breakout. So we have already checked out Super Breakout, and this is the second, third, and fourth game that you could be playing on the Atari 5200.
Let me tell you, I love Super Breakout. I mean, it's one of my top probably 5 games of all time, just because it's just fun to play one-player Pong sometimes. And the 5200 was where I learned to play that game, which was not the best place to learn to play that game.
Yeah, with the analog joystick, right?
Yeah, but with the analog joystick, it's not that bad. If your joystick is working all right, I mean, you have real good control, and instead of having to use a trackball or anything else, it actually gives you some more precise movement, in my opinion.
Yeah, this feels all right for all the games you could play up to this point on a home console. So just to give everyone the backstory, the rest of the games that you could be playing on home consoles right now that are like Galaxian, there is 79 total number of games that are variants of Galaxian that are out there, and that's all systems. There's 6 that we've played already on home consoles, and some of the best that you could play would be well, actually, some of the best you could play were not based on Galaxian. They're more like just fixed shooters, like Demon Attack, that's out there. Communist Mutants from Space, which was on that Supercharger add-on for the Atari 2600, or Cosmic Arc.
Cosmic Arc, I know that one. I wish I had this game in my collection at the time my father picked it up. I don't think he was familiar with Galaxian because we definitely had Space Invaders, but Space Invaders, as I think we might see, primitive compared to Galaxian.
Right. That was a good run. They are keeping the high score over in the bottom left of the screen. So we're in a game. Oh, wait, no. I do notice the movements are... Yeah, see how jerky they come down? They're not coming down as smooth as they would in the arcade. Someone else pointed that out. We also saw that on the Atari home computer version.
Those limitations. You know, you couldn't quite get the arcade yet. You had to wait a while before you could replicate it in any real way.
Yeah. I felt like Ladybug, when it came to the ColecoVision, has been the closest. It was pretty good.
Now, us, you know, again, I played Pac-Man in the arcade, but it's very vague memories as a little kid. But Pac-Man on the 5200 I remember very clearly, and it's if you're playing it on a modern controller, I'm sure it's a little more forgiving. But you'll see, it's a thing.
Well, as far as game variations go, this doesn't have that many. Okay, I'm dead.
Yeah. Seems pretty. Yeah, were there any selections? There's no difficulty, I assume.
All it was difficulty and speed options. But
and this had trackball capability, you said?
Yeah, this one did.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, honestly, everything should have trackball capability, really, because everything's on an analog system. So it really wouldn't matter. I mean, everything kind of works the same, not exactly the same way, but you're basically just doing a ball and socket system anyway.
Right.
And yeah, these games are okay. I mean, you're dealing with left and right, so you know, depending on how the inputs were for the controllers, you know, you could be a little bit in the southern hemisphere of the circular action, and it might still count as down. Who knows?
Like, look at the movement of that one. What was that?
I don't know.
It was faking you out.
Yeah, my advice for these old games is don't plan on making too many moves early.
Nice.
Because these things are just... That's what I've noticed playing a lot of retro games recently, because I really kind of would dive back in a little. It's that these things are just not reliable. It's tough to get a strategy in place, especially with Space Invaders. Space Invaders just annoys me on this system.
Oh, great. Well, that's a good segue. So the other shooters that are out there in all the games right now that you could be playing on home consoles, that's what we're going to be competing against this one. That's a good run.
Not bad.
All right, there's just a quick taste of the first game available on the Atari 5200. If you're just now tuning in and you're not familiar with our rating system, all our guests get to rate the video games based on everything right now in November 1982. So you can't rate it on future video games. If you look at this and think this game is bad, compared to all the games you could play across all home consoles, then you rate this somewhere around the 2-star range. If you think it's broken, then you rate it somewhere around the 1-star range. If you think this is pretty average for all the games you could play across all home consoles, then you rate it somewhere around the 3-star range. If you think this is very good, above average, an excellent game, then somewhere around the 4-star range. And if you think this is one of the best games you could play on all home consoles right now in November 1982, you rate it somewhere in the 5-star range. So now, John, I turn it to you. What do you give Galaxian on the brand new Atari 5200?
Hey, 82, I'm giving it a 3.5.
Nice.
I think that's, I mean, I've been playing a lot more shooters or shmups lately, and so my skills are a little bit better than they used to be, but playing this game, I was delightfully surprised, as we will see when compared to the next game.
That's right. You actually contended with majority of the chat. Last night when I was playing, they were all throwing out ratings. It was around 3.5 or 3 to 3.5 is what I was seeing. So there we go. Let's see what our next game is. Yes.
Little Pac-Man action.
Yes, Pac-Man for the brand new Atari 5200. Let's check it out. Pop it and play some Pac-Man.
All right, so Pac-Man for the 2600. Do you remember when that came out?
Yes, that was March 16th, 1982. So earlier this year.
So this, yeah. Now, as a follow-up, I mean, just look at this title screen. I mean, it's significant. You're like, whoa, this looks like Pac-Man,
Oh, yeah.
which is nice. I mean, when you think about the 2600 and the disappointment that game was for the tons of people. I mean, ET gets too much bad rap when thinking about the VCS or the 2600 failure, and it's the Pac-Man was just depressing.
Yeah, it was. All right, I'm going to go in with a two-player game. And once again, the only thing you can do, if you can see on the screen, is I'm switching out the little fruit symbol. All that does is switch how difficult, it is. Because it's the same maze. They're trying to go for a 1-to-1 for Pac-Man. So I'm going in. Wow.
It looks like Pac-Man.
Yes.
I mean, the 2600. It's a flashing fever dream. This is graphically, like, I remember playing this and it was cool. I was like, oh, okay.
Did you have
But
any
you were not
experience
playing
with
it.
the 2600 Pac-Man at the time?
I was not familiar with it. 2600 was a console I didn't get until probably after I had the Sega Genesis.
Oh, wow.
It was just one of those that I knew it existed, but the 5200 was already graphically better, so I never even paid attention because graphics were a big deal when you're a kid, because they jumped in scale and so much so fast. And
Yeah.
my kids are playing Fortnite for a decade and Rainbow Six and the same things, but we had consoles that were like revolutionary jumps.
Yeah.
And this just looks so much better than anything on the 2600 that I never went back to it just to experience. And there are some really good gameplay games on there still. But this game, see, I could never play anything like this when I was a kid because you're using a non-centering analog controller most of the time,
Yes.
which makes it really hard to go right and left and make any kind of quick turns like I can with any kind of digital input device.
Yeah, in fact, majority of the emulators that I've been testing, before the show, they all are digital. They don't incorporate the analog input because for like this, why? Why would you even need analog?
Yeah, and it wouldn't even be a fair representation because non-centering. It's like you got the analog stick and you push it to the right and it stays there. Push it to the left, it stays there. And so you better get yourself back into a place because if you mean to go right to left, you better know where you are.
Yeah.
On that stick, and makes it for an extra challenging experience.
Very nice. Jeremiah says in the chat, 5200 Pac-Man is probably my favorite version of Pac-Man.
I mean, I told you, soft spots all over the place. Love this game.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks good, and I love that you're running with the CRT filter here because that really brings it back. That subtle curve. Playing this on a Sony console TV. Still have this thing in the basement. I should probably hook it up again after I find some, working controllers.
Oh, right.
The animations.
Oh, and the cutscenes.
This was the first game to introduce cutscenes, and I don't know if it's correct, but this might be the first console game ever to have a cutscene.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think of the other systems that have been put, like a ColecoVision.
Yeah, you might.
I don't believe Coleco, but then there's another one even more obscure, the VTech Creativision, which I wasn't aware of. It very similar graphics to the ColecoVision and SU-1000, and we saw that. Well, at least the copyright for those games was 1981, but some of the games are unbelievable. Like there's one game we played, John, called Crazy Chewy. And Crazy Chewy was a Pac-Man-like game, but it allowed you to play two-player cooperatively.
Oh, that's cool.
With lots of other game modes, too. Oh, he snuck out.
That was me pretending I was using the original controller and not being able to make a turn.
Yeah, and Manly, I'm with you there. And the chat says about the first cutscenes. Yeah, Pac-Man in the arcade, definitely.
Yeah,
All right,
Pac-Man in
so
the arcade was the first, I believe. But yeah, at the 5200, I didn't know what was the name of that console again? Was it
uh,
Selectavision?
the VTech Creativision. It
Creative.
was kind of like the Arcadia 2001, which
Yeah, I
in different
know about it.
regions it had different names. So even though I'm calling it the Creativision, it was also called the Dick Smith Wizard in Australia. It was called the Edutane. I can't remember the name of it in parts of Europe. But anyway, it originated in Hong Kong, and so it ripped off lots of stuff. They had a game called Police Jump that played like Donkey Kong. It was one of the first ones we ever saw. But very rare, obscure. Doing this channel, I've unearthed and uncovered all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I bought an Arcadia 2001 about 2 months ago because I was trading in some old stuff at a game store near us here, nearby in Detroit, and I was like, oh my God, it's boxed, and I had to get it, and I don't know why. It's just a little museum. Oh, so close.
That was so tight. That's
But,
amazing that you found one boxed.
you know, and I guess at this point I'm definitely more of a console collector than a game collector. But the video game year did the same thing for me. You know, it created this
a monster.
This desire to get all of the different weird, rare things.
Yes, right? All right, I think we ended this one's all done. At least the game over happened with Pac-Man. So at this point on home consoles, we have quite a bit of competition. This one has a few games that play like Pac-Man. Of course, Pac-Man inspired lots of games, like Lock and Chase, Ladybug, KC Munchkin's also out there right now. And then you mentioned the Arcadia 2001. A really good one was Cat Tracks. I don't know if you've played that or seen that on the Arcadia.
Oh. These are things I'm digging up. I love getting new games. I love it. I just wish people would just send me, hey, try this game. Because, I mean, I could spend a lifetime just digging up stuff from the last 30 years.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
I'll send you my notes too, John. It'll have everything. So some of the worst ways you could play Pac-Man right now on home consoles is Gobbleman. That's on the Bally Astrocade. I would say that's the worst of the worst. Gobbleman is terrible. And then Candyman on the Astrocade is another really bad one. But Pac Monster on the Epoch Cassette Vision in Japan is also available, but that one's a pretty bad one. So of all the games you can play...
KC Munchkin out yet?
Yes, and KC Munchkin and Casey's Crazy Chase. Both of those are out right now.
Chase, yeah.
Yeah. Last time you were here, we were playing KC Munchkin. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what would you give of all the games you could play right now on all those home consoles? What's Pac-Man?
I give it a 3-star. And like I'm heavy loading graphics here and I'm thinking of it as a little kid playing on that old controller. I can't give it a 3.5 otherwise, but it's good. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible. There you go. Pac-Man for the Atari 5200. And finally, the last game we're going to be checking out tonight that you could get at launch is Space Invaders.
Yes, the game that destroyed Pachinko.
That's right. Let's pop in and play some Space Invaders. Atari did pull out the heavy hitters, getting Namco to help.
I was just thinking that.
And Taito, to help.
They didn't screw around. They got out the big stuff and they went for it. I mean, I love how it shows you right at the bottom too. Taito's like, yeah, you can have this game, but you're going to show our name.
Yeah. I'm curious if Taito provided restrictions, because the Space Invaders on the Atari 2600 had 112 game variations. It had lots more options for 1 or 2 player, cooperative, competitive. It had so many things. I wonder if Taito put the limit on it and said, no, you got to make this closer to the arcade. We're not going to let you get away with that.
Do your Atari 2600 stuff to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks, Chiptune. In the chat, I said 150, I think, yesterday, because I always thought it was tons of variations. All right, so this one's going to be a little different because I don't know if we can do this. John has his own joystick. I got my own joystick, but I'm surprised this doesn't allow any options for simultaneous play, and it doesn't allow 2 joysticks to play. So watch, I'm going to do a 2-player game. I would have to pass my joystick all the way over to the East Coast to have you play, I think. Let's see what happens. So I'm going in first.
Now, I'll say it is colorful.
Yeah,
I
give me
like
all the good things you like
Yeah,
about.
I'm going to be positive here, okay? The characters are very well animated. There's a lot of movement in each of their, sprite animations. Uh, the colors are great. I love the green explosions whenever you hit them. The little rainbow, they always look like marshmallow pads to me. I know that they are supposed to represent something.
Shields or barriers or something.
Yeah. Yeah, this part of the game, which I'm sure you've mentioned on the 700 variations of this game you've probably played so far, that the speed up was a bug, not a feature, but it was a feature in the end. It was that like the programming would make them speed up as it moved down the screen, because everything on the screen at one time was a natural slowdown. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
No, you make sense, and that's a good point to bring up, because when we play this game, it's not doing that. It's not giving a natural progression. Notice that as I'm killing them, they're still going the same speed, and they're still going the same speed, and they're still going. Oh wait, there we go. Now we got the next. It's only 3 speeds, I think. It goes first speed and this second speed, and it keeps this second speed. No, I think it switched to another, but it's not this slow progression. It's
well, maybe, I don't know. It's tough when it gets crazy fast. It does give me anxiety.
Oh, see, now we'll get the. Can you do any movement, or I think it doesn't even let you do a thing, right? So this means this is so limited, this version, that you can't even play on two. If someone bought the 5200 with 2 joysticks and had them both plugged in, it wouldn't do anything. That blows my mind.
I wonder if Taito programmed this, or Atari, or programmed that feature. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm sure Atari did the programming, but maybe Atari just had preemptive thought that, hey, that controller 2 we packed in, it's probably going to break. Let's just let them use one controller.
There we go. Yep, smart. Most of these early ones, when we talk about the Namco and Taito, Namco has not published anything at home at all. Everything they published has only been in arcade. Taito has only, I don't think Taito's published anything for the home. It's all been involvement or just licensed, like giving them the rights for it, And now it's going to get intense.
It's great because this is the time, early 80s. The gaming industry is becoming something that can't be ignored. It's huge. It's bigger than the movies already, or in some ways, it's bigger than some of the movies. The arcade industry is massive. Computer industry growing. It was exciting. This was an exciting period.
Yeah, it's been really exciting playing all the games too. At this point, I didn't get a chance to tell Howard Scott Warshaw when he was on that it's been really fun seeing programmers try things new and like throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. And so there's some games we'll play that they're really bad. No offense to ET, but they're
broken games.
They're very broken games, but you can see where their inspiration's coming from. They're trying to do something like an example is, wait, this game has a karma meter? Wait, this has a good and a way to be good and evil in a game? They're already putting that here? The game's terrible, but the fact that the ambition's there is so fun.
Yeah, your perspective in this show is envious because you get to watch the evolution in a speed that's incredible, just unnatural speed, and you'll see the ebbs and flows. You'll see the creativity spikes and what comes through and what carries forward, or like that good and evil in a game. I mean, that's a wonderful idea, and it's probably impossible to execute in 1982.
Right.
But it's something that'll carry forward. I mean, these guys had to do everything. I mean, it's not the late 80s yet, but it was like the Nintendo sequel thing. A sequel for a Nintendo game was a completely different game most of the time.
Yes, yeah. Shows the big difference between gaming nowadays, because the big companies know they're going to get money if they make this kind of game. And at this point, no one knew what was going to be popular.
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, this was a little bit Wild West, a burgeoning new industry. It's not the late stage capitalism of today's video games where everything is a tie-in or a collab or an additional ancillary revenue opportunity. So it's a little nicer at this time, a little more innocent.
Yeah, right. Nice. And you sound like you've been in the business. You know these
I mean,
business types.
I've been in a variety of businesses. It's kind of the same, you know. it just something starts off and then something grows and then new markets grow off of it and then new businesses grow off of that and then it grows bigger and bigger and it loses a little something. But
Yeah.
you know, it is what I mean. Everything is games. I mean,
Right.
YouTube is like that as well.
Ah, yes.
Think about it. I mean,
Hello, YouTube.
it started as something fun. I mean, back when I had started it, when I started with our thing, and it was like, oh wow, a lot of people are showing up. This thing has power, and now it
Yeah.
has the most power. Legacy media is on its way out because online is the way it's going. Everything. Fun to
Well,
watch
for
these things change over time.
Yeah, it's been fun. Well, Space Invaders has a really big legacy. It's kind of like when a new hot video game comes out. That's now the standard of what a video game is. You know, Pong was the first
Yeah.
one that was like, whoa, this is. If you say a video game is Pong, and then Space Invaders is the other one. So when Space Invaders came out, it was so big that now we have so many clones and copies of Space Invaders. Now, up to this point, we've played 367 fixed shooters across all systems. And that's, we moved left, we moved right, we fired. We've played 367 games. On home consoles, this is the 45th that we moved left, right, and fire. And, you know, some of the best is Space Invaders on the Atari VCS, Space Destroyers on the APF Imagination Machine, Space Chase by Apollo on the Atari, Mega Mania is out there.
MP1000, the Imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, MP1000. There's lots of games that are like Space Invaders. So maybe now, when you give us your rating, John, of this game for the Atari 5200, what are some of the bad things about this one? Why this?
You know
this...
what, I have an open mind these days. Space Invaders is an incredibly important game, and in looking back on it and then playing this again now, I'm going to give it a little more credit. I think it's a 3.5 star. It's a pretty decent representation of the game. The speed up is all right. It does give me that anxiety still to this day, 40 years later. So, got to give it its due.
All right, 3.5.
Space Invaders in general. That's the thing. I don't like fixed shooters very much, but you know, that's opinion.
Yep. It's all about that. I like putting the chat or the rating in and have everyone in the chat throw out their ratings too, and they're doing that tonight for the games that we play, because it's really fun because everyone has their own opinion of it, and so why not let everyone reach out and say what it is, you know?
I guess it's like after doing the video game years, we were, right when you're researching it, I'm sure you've touched upon it on any of the numerous variants of Space Invaders, but the idea that it had essentially taken all the pachinko parlors in Tokyo and then completely wiped them out overnight.
Yes.
It's going into my basement. I still have like a pachinko machine that I got at an old tag sale at one point, because I just love that idea that, all of a sudden, video killed the radio star version of video games. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, so it went by so fast, but that is the launch of the Atari 5200. And I couldn't have done it and played and had this great retrospective without an awesome guest. And John, I'm so glad you could come on. I'm so thankful that you're able to share a little bit about what makes the 5200 great, because most people, they all have my experience. I have the bad experience. I wanted to bring someone that had a good experience that could tell us, with new joysticks, what it was like and what it was like having it as a kid. So I'm really glad you could come on.
Oh, absolutely. Having to play with all those controllers, it just got me really into gaming as a young kid. The fact that it was half broken when you got it, I think was part of its charm to me. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime. And I don't know when the next big system, the next big system is obviously going to be the NES, but that won't be till 1985. That's so far in the future. We'll probably be through 10,000, 20,000 games by then. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Hey, feel free to invite me to any of these in the future. I'll get my microphone a little bit better next time. And this is a blast. I love playing old games, so.
Yeah, well then maybe the next big one's Famicom in 1983.
Oh, are you going to jump into Famicom?
Yeah, I'm actually planning to split it up. We've already done it with the Philips Video Pack and the Magnavox Odyssey 2, because in Europe it came out first and then Magnavox Odyssey 2 came out. I'm going to do the same thing with the Famicom. All the Famicom games are going to come out. We're going to play them, and when NES comes out, we're going to play them. So we'll actually see everything on a global scale.
Boy, man, if you want me to bring out more props for one, you know, I got some Famicom stuff I can bring out too. I love Famicom. It's like the Wild West version of the NES.
Yes.
Everything.
With the controllers attached. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, John Delia, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out on the launch of the Atari 5200. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, guys.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every weekday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and let us know if we missed any games along the way. This video would not be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and MAME. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every single video game. We have links down below that'll send you to places like our Discord and Patreon, and one that says all the video games we've ever played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are Perpetually Retro, and we will catch you next time.